how the Snowflake will identify the format of your source, right? Snowflake can identify CSV is the first format, right? Then XML, then JSON, Parquet, right? Parquet, it is this, and ORC, right? And Avro. So these are the type of files Snowflake can identify, and it can load easily, right? But you have to tell Snowflake in which of these formats your file is being formed, right? So what type of format it is, right? You have to tell Snowflake that this is the format you are going to access. Then Snowflake will write an algorithm on its own for reading data from that file. Okay. So for that purpose, file formats are used, right? For that purpose, we use file formats. Okay. So first, initially, I can go here and I can create a file format. So I go to the file format, I create. So remember, when you want to load data, file formats are required. Okay. Either you can choose to give the configuration while you are writing a query for loading data, right? Fine. Loading data, the query we are using is, the command we are using is copy. Okay. So there is a command called copy command. We will be using a copy command for loading data from anywhere else. Okay. Fine. But when you are using web UI, we are not writing any commands here. Okay. Fine. Now I want to name this as pay CSV, something like that. Okay. Any name you can give. And every one of this object, okay, whether you are creating a table, a view, stage, file format, any one of this object that has to be kept under a schema only. Okay, it will be coming under a schema. So you have to choose a schema. By default, I just choose public now, right? Then what should be the format? The format is CSV. Compression method is auto. If you want some other compression method, you can do it. If you give auto, Snowflake will compress it by using the gzip. Okay, it will use the gzip type of compression. Okay, fine. So other compression methods also, some of them supported. If you don't want to be compressed it, you can give auto. And sorry, you can give none. Right? Fine. Then column separator. So people who are familiar with the data loading, you will be knowing about that. What is a column separator? So column separator helps to identify each column. So when you are opening a flat file, so you are not able to identify where your column ends, right? So each of your column has to be separated by some character, and that is what we are using comma. If you have something else also, you can use it by choosing other, right? And you can just specify it, something like that. So if you want, for example, I'm telling, so anything else also it can be specified. But you don't need to worry about it. Is a comma separated file. It's a CSV file, right? New row separator also, it's a new line. So just you keep these things as default one, right? Whether your file is having a header line or not. So that is what we have to see that, right? I have a very small file here. Let me show you. So this is what initially we are going to do inside the sources. So the name of the file is paymenttype.dat. Okay, so don't worry about the extension. DAT is for data file. Okay, don't worry about the extension. You see that payment ID, payment type description. This is what my heading is about. Okay, so I have headers in my file. So when I'm going for headers, line to skip, it should be 1 because I have one line which is for headers. Okay, so I have to give it for 1, and fields optionally enclosed by. So what do you mean by fields optionally enclosed by? So whenever you want to mention any string values, instead of mentioning a string value directly, I will be mentioning it by quotes. Okay, so let me open the previous file itself. For example, if I want to have a fields optionally enclosed by, so it will be like this, right? This everywhere, not only in one record, everywhere it should be like this. So what it means is, normally we call this as text qualifier. Okay, we call this as text qualifier. That means that it will be helping us to identify a whole column. Okay, so for example, if there is a comma present in one single column, the Snowflake will misinterpret, the system will misinterpret that this is the end of a column. But actually, column is not ending there. It is inside your column value, right? So that is what a comma is about. For example, if there is an address bar, so 47, comma, first street, like that. So 47, comma, first street should be entirely considered as an address column. But 47, comma, if the comma is there, it will encounter there. So the system may consider it as a end of the column. Okay, I hope you understand that. So we have a fields optionally enclosed by. For this file, we don't require it. And a null string. So null strings can be specified in a different manner in different files, right? So some of them may be specified as null, some of them may be specified as NUL, and you can specify as with an escape character also, right? Escape character starts with slash. So, but here I don't have any null, and I'm not going to deal with null also. So you can just remove it, right? Even if you are not removing, that's not a problem because we don't have a null value here. I'm just removing them. And if you go further down, you know that what is the trim space before and after. So to validate additional spaces before and after a column value that can be removed. And error on column count mismatch. So what do you mean by error on column count mismatch? So if you are having a table which has 10 columns, and if you are source, the source file, what you are going to load, is not having 10 columns, right? So it may have more than 10 or less than 10, whatever it is. So then that should be treated as error or not. That is what it's been asking here now. If you are not choosing this, so what happens? It will consider that, for example, you have 10 columns in your table, and in your source file you have 5 columns. Means it will not treat it as an error, and it will continue loading, and it will match the first column to the first column of the source, second column, second, up to 5 columns it will match. 6th column will be kept empty, right? So that is the way it loads. Okay. But if you don't have any other column as a not null, that will be not a problem. But if you have the 6th column as not null, means here it will create a problem, right? So we have to match each of these columns. Remember, Snowflake is not having any ETL process and all, right? So people, some of you might be familiar with some ETL tools. You know that the mapping of fields, right? So the mapping of fields cannot happen here, but we have some other way of doing it using queries. Okay, so we'll see that one later on. So I'm just clicking this. For this file, it is not going to give any difference here. Then what should be your escape character? If you are using any escape character, so we can choose that one. So in this one, it's not required. And date format, timestamp format, everything, I'm just keeping it as the default one, right? Fine. Now, what I have changed here is just I have changed the header lines and the null string. That only I have changed. I have not changed anything at all, right? Fine. So finish it off. So you have created one file format.